Welcome to the Peace and Parenting Podcast. I'm Michelle, and I am lucky enough to have one of our beautiful community members who has graciously decided that she would share her story on our show. And so, welcome to the show, Cammie. Would you like to tell people where you're calling in from?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. As you said, I'm Cammie and I live in the Pacific Northwest. Actually, just had our 1 year anniversary of moving here after living in Australia for 10 years. And that's where we had our two children, Archie, who's 6, and Flora, who's 2.
Yay. Well, we're so glad you became. How long have you been in our group program?
About 2 months now, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about your journey into connected parenting. If you can remember way back when you first found this ideology and you first found this method, and before, or actually right before you found this method, how were things in your home? How did things feel? What was the parenting vibe? Tell me what it looked like.
Well, parenting vibe was okay. It was really me who was struggling. So Archie was actually a pretty chill toddler, but I also think we were comparing that to him when he was a baby it was really hard. We used
Yeah.
to say, oh, he's not difficult, but he's not easygoing. But looking back, it was like, no, that was a really hard time.
Yeah.
He was a horrendous sleeper. He woke every 45 minutes. We turned to co-sleeping. And so when he became a toddler, he was, yeah, just pretty easygoing. Um, and I was, yeah, parenting was, much like I'd read some books and I thought, yep, I've got my scripts, I've got my things ready to go. And it was really not until he was kind of a full on toddler doing his own things that I realized the way that my ex was responding to him became quite triggering for me, and
Mhm.
that I was really the one struggling
Mhm.
through that time. So like many people, I stumbled my way to connected parenting, and thankfully came to it pretty early on in my parenting journey. But it was from really where I was with my mental health more than anything that got me to that point.
Mhm. And so what were the daily interactions like? Where what was happening to you in the hard moments?
Yeah. So um, I was certain that when I became a parent, I mean, initially I didn't want to be a parent. It honestly looked too hard.
Yeah,
It looked too
it
hard.
is.
I saw my siblings. It's very hard. I saw my siblings. I know how I was parented, and I just thought, nope, that's too hard. Why would anyone make the choice to do that to themselves? But I met my husband at the time, and I knew he wanted children. And who knows if it was sort of biological clock or what, but I then decided, yeah, I really want to have kids. But I was going to do it, quote unquote, the right way. I was
Yeah.
going to get the right books. I was going to follow the perfect set of instructions. In my head, there was a formula to apply, and I was going
Mhm.
to apply it, and it was going to work out the equation every time. That
Ye
was
oh,
that was
yes, it
what I was
is,
going to do.
Cammie. Only if you're living in Never Never Land.
Yeah. And then my Archie came along and he was like, yeah, if you think that that's going to be how it plays out, it's not. But I
Yeah.
had the scripts ready to go, and I went into parenting with a lot of confidence, and I fell in love with being a mother.
Mhm.
And I also was dealing with some hurt around the way that I was parented,
Mhm.
and sort of not feeling loved the way, even a little person should be loved. So it was just so incredible to love this human to the degree that I did, because it was, at the time, it just felt so overwhelming, and it almost was scary how much I loved this little person.
Yeah.
And so I loved motherhood. I loved it. Even the hard bits
Yeah.
I loved. And so a daily interaction, I was home full time with Archie, and we would, have moments where we were interacting together that I didn't realize was special time playing out, but it was.
Mhm.
And I was connecting with him, and we had a good relationship. and it was going well for us. Like I said, he was just kind of in general a pretty easygoing toddler,
Mhm.
but I saw a lot of resistance that was coming up between him and his dad. And it was those interactions that was super triggering to me. And
Yeah,
it would be simply, he'd be making a mess, and there was a lot of trying to control the situation, and sometimes a lot of blame towards me around, why are you letting him do this? Why are
right.
you? And I really internalized that much the way I did when I was a child.
Mhm.
It felt like it felt like Archie's behavior was an extension of my own inner
Childhood.
child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how that happens? It's like you don't think about your inner child for 20 years, and then all of a sudden you have a child and it all comes rushing to the forefront
All
and
comes
yeah,
rushing back.
comes
And
crashing down.
I often tell people I thought I was fine.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. Here I am.
Yep.
I've escaped the turmoil of my childhood
Yep.
where I wasn't allowed to say things, or I didn't feel listened to.
Yep.
Um, I was a productive member of society.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm fine. I'm completely
Yes.
fine.
Yeah, I think
And
so many people feel the same way that you're describing. I know I did too. Like, I did 10 years of therapy. I got over my childhood. Reconciled with my parents. I whatever, but it didn't seem to matter because that unearthing during parenting is so poignant, so sharp that we all need support and help around it.
And it's not talked about either.
No.
It's not talked about. Not only are you going to become a parent, but you're also gonna become a parent to yourself as well.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to reconcile with some things there, and it is not talked about at all.
No. Well, people
So
do say you should do reparenting, but I when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, I did that already. I did reparenting. I worked on my childhood for 10 years in therapy. Like, I'm okay." For some reason, it wasn't in context enough,
right.
that work I did.
That's right, and there's something so visceral when that baby comes out and is put on your chest. And
Mhm,
it's like, whoa,
mhm.
there's an experience that happens that you can't put it into that context until you're at that point.
Yeah,
But I think if there's an awareness around it, then it at least keeps us knowledgeable that, okay, this might be something I experience. A bit like the baby blues, like we all know, maybe
yeah,
you'll have the 3-day baby blues. I didn't experience that, but I at least knew it could happen. So
yeah.
you knew what you could do, or resources, and we just don't talk about this.
No.
So I was just thrown into this space of anxiety, and I felt like I was a kid again. I was
Yeah,
feeling deeply shamed. I was feeling shamed. It wasn't, my partner who was making me feel that. It was just bringing up all of those
yeah,
feelings from when I was a child, and I was ashamed, and I was scared, and I didn't feel like I had a voice, and so I turned to therapy, and I was really looking to, help 30 something me, because
mhm.
I need help. And reality, it was my inner child, who needed to be listened to, he needed to be healed.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit woo woo, I think, but that experience was so cathartic, and so meaningful and so healing, that now as a parent, I literally do visualize myself as a child, that I'm also parenting myself in those hard moments in
Yeah.
particular.
It seems like almost I mean, for me, like you said, cathartic. Sometimes when I give my kids the empathy that I so desperately needed when I was a kid, when I can give it to them, not every time. Sometimes I don't wanna give it to them, but, sometimes when I give it to them, I can feel myself, like, healing a tiny bit.
Yeah. Well, and I said in one of the groups, I said, sometimes when I'm repeating a mantra, I'm not always repeating it to them. I'm repeating it to myself,
Yeah.
and I'm saying, I'm here. You're safe, and I'm here.
Yeah.
And it sometimes is actually just helping me
For Cammie.
be there for
Yes,
little Cammie.
that's
And
so cute.
yeah, we did, um my therapist in Australia, she was incredible, and we did EMDR around some
Mhm.
of the moments in my childhood that I could really recall, um, were that brought up a lot of feelings,
Yeah.
and, I remember I also got into journaling as well. That
Mhm.
was something that was really helpful for me, where
Yep.
all the things that I needed to say, and I would sort of
Oh, we're
after
having
10
an
minutes,
earthquake.
"Oh my gosh, I see it right now.
Oh my god. Things are
Oh my
falling off the
gosh.
wall. Esme?
Where are you
Ez?
at? Where are you
You
located?
okay, honey? It's an earthquake. Yes, I feel aftershock also.
Where are you located?
LA.
You're
That
in LA,
was
okay.
huge. That was
I
gig
just saw that.
That's the
Oh
biggest
my
earthquake
god.
I've ever been. Sorry, that whoever is listening, we're gonna have to. I don't know. We probably won't be able to edit this out, but we just had a huge earthquake. That was crazy. As I think something fell off the wall. I'm doing a podcast. Can you take a look?
Oh,
Crazy.
the realities of podcasting.
I mean, honestly, who knew?
I mean, you never know what's gonna happen in
No,
life and in
that was
parenting.
so scary. Um,
Are you okay?
yes, I'm okay. I think I'm okay. Thank you for asking. Um, the other thing I just wanted to get to more to the connected parenting piece too. Like, what when did you find the connected parenting, and how did that help you put everything together?
Yeah. So I found it through the process of healing myself and connecting with myself.
Mhm.
And I had some really cathartic experiences where I would be playing with Archie and having special time. And I would just have this visual of 8-year-old me. For some reason, she's always about 8, and she
Yeah.
would be there too. And it was just such a different experience that instead of holding my breath and trying not to let someone hear me playing, because you weren't meant to be playing, you were meant to be doing some other task. And
Yes.
so but it was just joining in on that. And so I began to look into is it John Siegel, his work, Dr. Siegel, his work.
Dan.
Yes, Dan Siegel, that's right, that's what it is. I found his work. There's an author in Australia, her name is Pinky McKay, and I
Yep.
followed her.
Yep. Yep.
I really enjoyed Janet Lansbury's
Yes.
podcasts around, Unruffled, around yeah,
Toddlers.
letting toddlers and really letting them kind of
Mhm.
have free will and
Yep.
hold space for them. And so I found those things, and then ultimately that led me to peace and parenting. I think it sort of naturally came up in the algorithm,
Yep. Of
and
course.
there was
Lucky me.
something about that content that really resonated. And I think I was focused on kind of toddler Archie, and this helped me look further down the road of what really is our relationship. It's not about this moment. This moment's going to pass really quickly,
Yeah.
but staying connected through our entire relationship. And that's going to shift. It's going to look different over time, but always coming back to connection.
Yep.
And so I gobbled up your podcasts and your content on Instagram. And it was just, and that ultimately led me to being part of the groups. And here we are, got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. And Archie is a sensitive, strong willed, sweet. Oh, he's just the kindest, and he has big feelings. And I often say that sometimes the parenting that I enjoy the most are the hardest moments,
Yeah.
because it's allowing me to hold that space for him and myself,
Yes.
and be there and have that empathy. And
Yes.
I see him hold that space for his little sister, not all the time, but at times, and saying, "Oh, she's having big feelings,"
Yeah.
um,
So
and
cute.
recognizing it, and
You know what I think is so interesting that you said, and I've been talking about this lately a lot in group and stuff, is that when we say connection or connective parenting or special time or like all these ideas around connection, people are under the impression that it's all roses and all like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just connecting with my kids. I'm just here and I'm talking to you and I wanna know how you feel." And it's like, yeah, maybe that's part of it, but I like what you said that you enjoy it most in the hard moments, and I feel the most connected when my kids are going through a tantrum, when my kids are having huge upsets, when my kids are off the rails being jerks. Like, I know in those moments we're gonna form a deep connection here because, well, if I can, I'm not losing it. I'm not chastising, I'm not punishing, where those hard moments become very, they create a schism or chasm in parenting, in conventional parenting. In connected parenting, it actually creates connection.
Yeah. But and as you were saying that, I was thinking, isn't that case for all relationships? Think about your
Yeah.
adult relationships
Yep.
where when you bond with someone, it's often through
Hard
sharing
moment.
a hard moment and someone that you can be vulnerable with. And
Mhm.
so them bringing their most vulnerable upsets to you, and the fact that they're sharing that with you. I always, anytime Archie shares something with me that's hard, I say, "Oh, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
Thank you for trusting me
Yeah.
to bring that." And just being there for them, it means so much. And
Yep. And
so
beautiful
I
lessons are learned too.
exactly. So I feel really fortunate that I did find this early on. And even though it's something that I throw everything into, and being connected, I still make mistakes. I still have moments where I lose my cool and
Yep.
I raise my voice. And then that's that just another opportunity to reconnect and say,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And I'm working on this. And then to have them come back and say, I understand, mom, and I
Yeah.
understand, and
There's so
it's
many
okay.
moments that are ripe for connection that I don't think people really realize. Like the moment your child starts sharing something with you and you can be quiet and listen. The moment your kid is screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs and throwing a fit in their room is a moment for connection. Like your kid's being sassy and I we don't like it, but if you can hold space for the sassiness, allow them to feel their remorse, and then they come with the apology, that's genius. Like, there's so many incredible moments that happen in connection that I don't think people truly realize.
Yeah. And the fact that you can apply it not just in the relationships with your children, the relationships that you have with others. And
Yeah.
um, recently, we live near my brother at the moment. My niece has been coming over a lot, but we're going to be moving further away soon. And she was trying to come up with all these ideas of how we could stay closer and it was,
Good
she was really
girl.
struggling. And I just paused and I said, "Oh, it's really hard that we're moving further away, isn't it?"
Good for you. You sat
Because,
into the upset. You and people would be like, "Don't say that to her. Don't make her mad. Don't make her
yeah,
upset."
she was already upset
She
trying to come up
needed
with all
it.
these different ways, and it was like, it's not about the solution, it's coming from a place of, it's really hard that we're
It's
moving further away. We've loved this time together and being close, and
yeah.
that feels that I'm like, I'm sad too.
Yeah, we get to be sad and we get to mourn. We don't have to fix every moment. I love that. That's so
So I
sweet.
feel like, getting to that place where it then applies to
Yeah.
all of your relationships,
Yeah.
because isn't that what it's about? And I think sometimes we forget that these little people are full people. They're underdeveloped in their brains, but they're full people,
Yeah. Well,
and they
they have
deserve
fully developed limbic systems, which I didn't
ex
really know. They have fully developed emotionality,
yeah.
which is crazy, but they don't have fully developed reasoning,
Re
which is
That's right, the
a hard
reasoning.
combination.
And keeping it online and knowing, how
Yeah.
can you respond when it's offline, and I just think these are full people and they deserve to be treated like full people.
Totally. Tell me about the group. What are you thinking of the group? How do you enjoy it? You're in the Connected Parent Mastermind, which is our group coaching program. Tell us about it.
I love it. And I was a little bit like, oh, what am I going to get out of this? Because it's something I feel really comfortable. I feel really comfortable in this space. I feel really connected with my kids. And there is something that comes out of every group.
Yeah.
And also being able to hold space for other parents
Yeah.
is also really rewarding. Like you
Yeah.
you get so many, not just the practical tips, of being able to, yeah, okay, maybe I'll try that. But just that camaraderie, that being able to relate to one another, that you're not alone. You're not alone in this parenting business. It's so hard. I mean, I
Yeah.
was correct in thinking it was too hard. It is so hard.
Yeah.
And then when you come with parents who are at the beginning of this work, in the middle, at the end, bringing that all together and realizing we're really all in the same, um, we all have love for our children and wanting to connect with them, and it's just a special group. And I also love that there are parents with older kids. That's something that I,
Yeah.
hearing their stories, and that it's never too late is
Yes.
really important, and I think
I
that
know
everyone
yeah,
should hear
I
that.
think I think so too. I think a lot of people say to me, "Well, I don't really wanna be in group with people who are teens. We don't have the same problems." I'm like, "It's such an important story for you to hear. It's such an important journey for you to see if you have small kids, and if you have teens, it's also such an important journey for you to see these young people doing it differently and really grasping those ideas because what we use with our teens is actually the same exact things that we use with our toddlers." It really is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that it, and I was just thinking about, in one of the groups that came up and somebody was talking about their older parent, or their, excuse me, their older child, and that, have they, is this too late? And I was just able to share that if one day my parents were to come to me,
Yeah.
here I am in my late 30s, if they were to come to me and say,
I'm
look,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I know that they were doing the best they could with what they knew at the time, but if they were to come to say, knowing what I know now, I wish I could have done differently. And here I want to have a stronger relationship with you and connect with you, what that would mean.
Yeah.
Like it's never too late. And I think that that's been really important. So yeah, I love the groups.
Yeah, I
Everyone in
love
there.
them too. I love them too. They're so lovely. And if anyone else is interested, I'll put the link in the show notes for folks. But it's the Connected Parent Mastermind. Cammie, what do you have to say to anyone who's starting this parenting journey? What's your advice? What's your words of wisdom?
My words of wisdom, I sort of think, the hard moments can be the best moments. So, try not to try not to go, oh no, we're headed into tantrum, trying to find that at the end you might find a really strong connection. And also, look for little moments of love. I find that that is something that's really important in with my kids, is just anytime I sort of feel like, oh, we haven't done something, I just go up and touch their arm, go up and,
Yeah.
give them a kiss on the head, that little reminder that there's always love,
Yeah.
and so it's almost like little mini moments of special time that you can give them, I think can add up to be
So
really valuable.
sweet. Yes, the thumb war, the staring contest, the I spy, the asking for a hug in the middle of a tantrum or an upset or a hard moment. So good. Yeah. I love that. That's so sweet. Kimmy, thanks for being part of our community. Also, thanks for
Thank
coming on the podcast.
thank you for having me, and thank you for having this program. It's been, remarkable to be part of.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us on the Peace and Parenting podcast. And I don't know if you will encounter my earthquake experience, but I'm